I want to, first of all, thank all the speakers for coming and providing so many great memories and so much insight into the many accomplishments and contributions that Professor Merrill had made to the department. And then I want to turn over the microphone to Professor Merrill.
Well, I think we should stand for this.
Reference has been made to Groucho Marx. And this guy comes up to Groucho and says, thank you. And Groucho says, don't thank me, thank you. And so I'm here to thank you collectively and specifically Klaus Jensen, head of the department, who had the idea of doing this. Then the students you've heard today, Nick Pepys just now, Mike Sefton, Al Hoffman, and David Tyrrell, not only for their being here to make these presentations, but also for being a kind of claque who together over the years have been instrumental in supporting my nomination for various awards, which I have gratefully accepted. But these people have been very instrumental in that, and you didn't know that before. I thank particularly Clark Colton for having done double service. He was the one who was the master of ceremonies at my 70th birthday, and that goes back, I'm now 80, what am I? I won't find it there. 86 is what I am. So that's 16 years ago. Thank you, Clark, for having done that 16 years ago and for having appeared today. And to Pat Wong, my postdoctoral associate, who very much helped me get going in the beginning when I blended into biomedical engineering. I also should particularly acknowledge the great help that Ken Smith has given to me over the years, and as a co-supervisor of anything to do with fluid mechanics, which is not my forte. And had it not been for colleagues such as I've had in this department, I wouldn't be, or I would not have accomplished what I did accomplish. I want to make a brief remark. It's not very important, but about Building 12, which you've seen, and this imaginary penthouse in it. When I came to MIT as a graduate student, Building 12 had been built for the Chemical Warfare Service under the influence of Bradley Dewey. And it was used by them. Good heavens. Until the, oh, that's quite, the microphone gone? Oh, Thank you very much. The Chemical Warfare Building had been used for that purpose until about 1947. So when I came in, we started in Building 6 and Building 4, and chemical engineering was all over the place, but it certainly wasn't in any common building. With great pride, we finally entered the Chemical Warfare Building after the Army gave it up. And this was our first new building, and it was called Admiral Dewey's Barge because it was a barge. Namely, it was a rectangular box sitting in muck. And if you added more weight to it, it would sink down into the muck. And so when it came time to try to decide whether to increase the height or not, it was decided that the expense of putting in piles through the floor to keep the building from sinking would be too much, so that was finally erased. The other thing about that building, which you wouldn't know about, but I did know about, was there were vast areas in the middle going up through the entire height of the building to allow for distillation columns, heat transfer columns, and gigantic apparatus, which was a la mode at that time. And of course, as we got from the macro to the mini scale and now the nano scale, the need for such a vast volume decreased so that the building was floored over and it turned into something different. It was a remarkable building in that in the laboratory 12170, the operating procedure in the morning as we came into the laboratory would be to sweep the grit off the desks because that came down to the skylights overnight. And as a consequence, we had a not very clean atmosphere, and it was a delight to move over later on to Building 66, which, as you well know, has now become somewhat inefficient in terms of it doesn't have enough space for the department, and so we're in the neighboring building 56 and the neighboring building 60. You're hearing in the back of the room. All right. I would conclude by saying that while it's been a great pleasure to work on the variety of things that I've worked with my students over the years, going well beyond biomedical engineering into fluid mechanics, several other things, having nothing to do necessarily with polymers. The greatest pleasure I have in retrospect as to what I've accomplished is best represented by Nick's and Lisa Pepys's academic tree. I seem to have, by accident, affected a tremendous number of people who managed to branch out and carry on with vigor and make a mark, particularly in the field of biomaterials and biomedical engineering, but in other disciplines. And of this, I'm very proud and very grateful. And it's been, to have this meeting today and have these recollections come back well, I'm glad to say I'm glad to welcome this non-posthumously. Thank you very much.